On September 11th, 2001, when the biggest attack in the world was happening over the US, at the same time, Osama, who had orchestrated the attack, was sitting with his bodyguards in an eastern mountainous area of Afghanistan called Khost, taking updates of every detail of the attack on BBC Arabic service. And as soon as the attack happened in the US, on the same day, US intelligence agencies, which were the CIA, FBI and NSA, without wasting time, started the entire investigation of the attack. The first task was to check the records of the passports and visas of all the passengers who boarded the flight. They started by retrieving and checking them. In this way, they found out even the smallest details, and then they identified 19 people whom they believed could be the hijackers. Now this attack had already happened. Whatever plane it was, everything and everyone inside it was destroyed. And the US intelligence agencies were to Indonesia's. Each and every detail had to be discovered. So, just a few hours later, these US intelligence agencies, from the airports where these airplanes took off from, the footage at the airports is retrieved, and they start observing the activity of each person. And while doing this, they receive an input that among the 19 hijackers whose names had surfaced, the bag of the hijacker named Mohammed Atta was mistakenly left his bag in airport. This was a coincidence. His bag, due to a delay in the connecting flight, was left behind at Boston Logan Airport. Now, without wasting time, the CIA team locates this bag and reaches there to open it. And luckily, they don't need to put in much effort, because inside this bag, the details they were looking for, all of it was found in one place. Inside this bag were the Al-Qaeda instructions. Training, planning, manuals, everything was there. Even the will of Mohammed Atta was found in it. All these details confirmed that Al-Qaeda's Osama was involved. And even then, they did not stop. These 19 hijackers, since they came to the United States, their old calls, emails, bank transactions, these also started to be tracked. And finding all these things gave them official confirmation that this whole attack was not orchestrated by Al-Qaeda, because the funding these hijackers were receiving in the US, it came from Al-Qaeda, which they wire transferred from a Dubari account. And all these hijackers had trained in areas of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, from here it was officially confirmed that it was Al-Qaeda's work. But the name Al-Qaeda was not new for the US. The CIA team had given a warning in August 2001, that is 1 month before the attack, that Al-Qaeda was going to do something like this. In the past too, Al-Qaeda has attacked US embassies and similar targets multiple times. And the US had already been demanding Al-Qaeda and Osama from Afghanistan. And the US already had details of Al-Qaeda's network and Osama. There was a lot of anger about this throughout the US. Now, when all these things became known, then, on the 20th of September, 2001, President George W. Bush gives a speech in a joint session of Congress where he tells Afghanistan in front of the whole world that first, give us Osama without any conditions. Second, these Al-Qaeda training camps inside Afghanistan must be shut down immediately. And if this is not done, then the US will take military action. Now your question will be that Afghanistan will indeed hand over Osama. Why would they mess with such a big superpower? But the situation inside Afghanistan was also not normal. Since 1992, there was a civil war in Afghanistan, where 90% of the area was under Taliban control, and 10% under Northern Alliance control. The Taliban was already engaged in fighting within Afghanistan, in which Osama aided the Taliban significantly. From funding to training Taliban fighters, Osama helped extensively, even ideologically. Taliban and Al-Qaeda were aligned, so just handing over Osama to the US wasn't easy for the Taliban. The Taliban's own situation would deteriorate. As soon as the US made this demand, the Taliban said the next day, which was the 21st of September 2001, that give us proof of these attacks. Osama orchestrated it. After that, we think about it. Along with this, the Taliban also said that Osama is our guest, so we cannot just hand over our guest to you. It is against our culture. Now look, the US was not ready to listen to anything at that time, and as soon as the Taliban refused to hand over Osama, exactly 2 weeks later, the US completed all preparations and started Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, in which the United States had a rival of the Taliban in Afghanistan, the Northern Alliance. Together with them, started destroying all the Taliban bases inside Afghanistan and began searching for Osama. The biggest leaders of the Taliban, they started killing them one by one. And inside Afghanistan, the Northern Alliance forces, which were helping the USA, benefited the USA greatly in finding locations and eliminating them. Now the USA was defeating the Taliban day by day and was carrying out major operations one after the other inside Afghanistan. Now from here, Osama's situation also started deteriorating. It was becoming difficult for Osama to hide as well. So what did Osama do? Osama took his bodyguard in Afghanistan here. The Tora Bora Mountains are here. He came here. The border of Pakistan is also nearby. This is a completely mountainous area, so Osama sat here. After reaching here, Osama and all his fighters barely used electronic methods. Only occasionally, when necessary, they communicated through an unsecured radio transmission. They communicated, and because electronic methods were not used, all the advanced technology of the US was failing. After this, the US searched for many days, and there were 3 or 4 things in front of the US that made the US feel like this. Because of which they realized that Osama was in Tora Bora. The first thing that happened was that among the Al-Qaeda members that the US had captured in Afghanistan, one of them had said that he last saw him heading towards the mountains of Tora Bora. Now, based on this one clue, the USA couldn't just attack Tora Bora. Tora Bora was a very large area and a mountainous region. Now, after this, the second thing that happened was that a specific agency of the US. There was a team that would listen to the unsecured radio signals of Al-Qaeda through which people communicated with each other. In that communication, they also heard the name Tora Bora. Along with this, the USA had a team that was studying Al-Qaeda's communication methods. They reported that when Al-Qaeda members communicated among themselves in the mountains, they would use the reflection of mirrors on their faces. They communicated in code with each other inside the mountain. So, these reflections were also seen daily in the Tora Bora Mountains. And then one day, accidentally, Osama communicated somewhere using an unsecured radio signal, and Osama's voice was also captured. Actually, there was a man named Jalal who was studying Osama's voice for 7 years. So he gave confirmation, upon hearing the voice, that it matched Osama's speech pattern and Arabic dialect. Now, as all these details are gathered, the next step is all the intel to the United States. It is sent to Virginia, where the CIA headquarters are. They collected all the intelligence data and converted it into an electronic battlefield map. This means they observed all the intelligence data and created a map from it, and then using that map, the US Secret Delta Force, led by Major Dalton Fury, took the Northern Alliance with them. 70 soldiers and the CIA team went along and reached Tora Bora to capture Osama. As soon as the US Delta Force reached the Tora Bora mountain, from the 3rd of December 2001 to the 7th of December 2001, the United States Delta Force dropped 700,000 pounds of bombs, non-stop, for 4 days on Tora Bora. There was so much bombing that an earthquake occurred in the Tora Bora Mountains. Operation Enduring Freedom began in October 2001. Osama Bin Laden came to India after the war between Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. But even after that, it was not clear where Osama actually was. Now, from here, Osama understood that he would get stuck here. And the US Delta Force knows that Osama is right here, so they will not go back, just like that. So, Osama, through an unsecured radio transmission, the Northern Alliance of Afghanistan, which had come to Tora Bora with the United States, started talking through this unsecured radio signal. He said that he is ready to surrender, but he and his companions will only be able to come down and surrender if you stop dropping bombs. So, the point is that he was demanding a 1-day ceasefire in this conversation. Would only be able to surrender then. Now the CIA team was not sure. They wanted more assurance about whether Osama would actually do it or not. So, the conversation through radio signals between Osama and his associates was, they were listening even more. And Osama knew that whatever conversations Osama was having through his fighters on this radio were being listened to by the US. So whatever he said on that radio conversation, he said in such a way that the CIA team would, that confirmation is received that they are indeed going to surrender. And then the CIA falls for Osama's ruse. And on December 11th, they tell the Northern Alliance to talk to Osama and finalize the deal. And the next day, which is December 12th, Osama was supposed to surrender. However, during the time the bombing stopped, Osama prepared his escape route and fled towards Pakistan on horses and mules with his bodyguards. And then suddenly, Osama's family, who were inside Afghanistan, also disappeared. Where they went, nobody knew. This was a very big opportunity that slipped out of the hands of the US. Now after this, Osama had slipped from the hands of the US. But in the same week, on December 19th, 2001, there was a CIA Afghan informer named Mukhtar. He again received intelligence that Osama's family had reached Pakistan. So, it was deduced that if his family had reached Pakistan, then Osama must also be somewhere in Pakistan. And then the US, together with Pakistan, they started looking for Osama in Pakistan. And actually, this input was correct. Osama had gone to Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas, FATA. Osama went to this area of Pakistan because before 2018, this area was a special semi-autonomous region of Pakistan, Zindabad. Here,
Instead of Pakistan's mainstream legal system, a tribal governance model was in place. And there was Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, Haqqani Network, and Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, LEJ. This was a very stronghold of theirs, where they kept Osama. And after reaching this area, Osama changed his entire strategy. Any form of contact with the outside world was cut off. So much so that the Al-Qaeda members, who previously, the guards he spoke to, the communication he had with them, he even cut that off. No one knew. Even the Al-Qaeda members did not know where Osama and his family were. Osama and his family remained hidden. And to contact the outside world for daily needs, security and logistics, all the work was done by Ibrahim al-Kuwaiti. This was Al-Qaeda's most trusted person, and far from radio, satellite phone, and the internet. For communication, Osama used to write daily letters which went to Al-Qaeda, and he signed them with his code name as Mara. And Ibrahim worked as Osama's courier, and the messages would then proceed. Different Al-Qaeda networks used to reach there. And from there, it was decided what Al-Qaeda should do next. In this entire communication chain, nothing electronic was used. They made just one exception. If something was urgent, then Ibrahim would log into Gmail, and he would write the message in a draft, and the Al-Qaeda members also had the same Gmail password. They would log in the same drafts, open it, and read it. But they would not send it to each other. So, in this way, Osama and his family started living in hiding, and Ibrahim continued to manage their communication and other necessary things. And then sometime later, when Osama's work became difficult for Ibrahim to handle alone, so Ibrahim took permission from the Al-Qaeda leadership and also made his brother, Abrar al-Kuwaiti, Osama's courier. So now, from here, two people became Osama's couriers. Inside that area, Ibrahim and Abrar lived together alone, so people could become suspicious. To appear like a family, they got both of them married. They were married to 14-year-old Bushra and Mariam, so that all of them would look like a normal Pashto family. Now here, Osama was hiding in this way. On the other side, on a daily basis, all the US agencies were trying every method to find Osama. In Pakistan, in the entire Fatah region, large rewards were announced for any small details about Osama. If someone provides information, they will receive a reward, and this message should reach everyone. So even on the matchboxes available in shops, a reward was printed. Whoever provides any information about Osama will receive $5 million. Along with this, the CIA signed a secret agreement with some private mobile companies like AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon in this entire area concerning mobile phones and computers in the FATA region. They started selling phones that cost $10 with a secret chip installed. So when Al-Qaeda people buy the phone, they could be tracked because no other clues were available. But all these things failed because Osama had completely shut down electronic modes. Now, year after year was passing, and the CIA team was under a lot of pressure, and they were getting frustrated. So, sometime later, the CIA tried to think about planting one of their agents in Al-Qaeda, because they realised that only then could they find out something about Osama. So Humam Abalawi, also known as Abu Dujana, was a doctor by this name who was caught due to links with Al-Qaeda. So the CIA catches him and tells him to become their double agent. He just has to find out where Osama is and live the rest of his life accordingly. Your entire sentence will be set free. You will not face any jail time. And then he agrees to this. After a short training, and then news is spread that Blawi has escaped from CIA custody. Now his job was to win the trust of Al-Qaeda and inform the CIA of anything he found out about Osama. Blawi did exactly as the CIA instructed. He gained the trust of Al-Qaeda, and he started providing small inputs. And then sometime later, he told the CIA that Al-Qaeda needed a doctor just like him. They developed a lot of trust in him. He was given the task of treating Al-Qaeda's mastermind, al-Zawahiri. He would send all the medical reports, etc., and the CIA became very happy with him. And then a few days later, he tells the CIA, through a secure network, that it has found out a very important thing about Osama, which will help the CIA catch Osama. And after this, it says that I will tell you the details. You just set me free. But I cannot explain all the details over the phone, so I can only explain in person. The CIA secretly calls him to their most secure Camp Chapman. It was also Balawi's birthday, the same week. So the CIA team is so happy. They even kept a surprise cake for Balawi, so that as soon as he comes and tells about Osama, then everyone would cut the cake together. And only the senior officers of the CIA stayed inside this camp. Now from here, Balawi comes. The security around this whole camp was very tight, and at the first checkpoint, everyone was being checked. But the CIA had refused to check Balawi. At the second checkpoint also, there was no checking for him. He was directly told to let him come through. Now, freely passing through all the security, Balawi reaches the CIA camp, where the top leadership of the CIA was waiting to find out the location of Osama today. And Balawi meets all the CIA officers, extends both hands forward, and blows himself up with a bomb. Balawi was not a double agent for him. He made a plan with Al-Qaeda. On the contrary, all the officers of this camp, they had planned to kill them. In this single explosion, 7 CIA officers and a total of 16 people were killed. Such an event had never happened in CIA's history, and far from finding Osama's location, the entire CIA leadership was wiped out because of this plan. So after this incident, the process to find Osama also slowed down. After this new leadership came to the CIA, Osama's health had also gone down a lot. So the Al-Qaeda members were looking for a secure place for Osama. At the same time, in Abbottabad, a for sale board is seen on a plot near the Pakistan Military Academy. They thought that the area of Pakistan's cantonment is nearby. If Osama stays here, no one will suspect. So immediately, Abrar is sent and he takes $50,000 in cash. And with a fake ID, he buys this 38,000 square foot plot. And they immediately hire a local architect, Muhammad Yunus, and start building the house. Within a year, meaning by 2006, the house is ready. And in 2006, Abrar and Ibrahim's families all shift here. All the work outside the house, sending letters to Al-Qaeda, maintaining communication, and planning ahead was done by Abrar and Ibrahim, acting as couriers. And inside the house, Abrar and Ibrahim's wives used to cook and do all the other chores. And Osama would stay hidden inside the compound the entire time. Now that Osama had moved here for the next 5 years, his location. The US does not find out anything. Then comes the date, the 27th of August 2010. And on this day, the CIA had absolutely no idea that the one they had been tirelessly searching for years, they were going to encounter by deceit today. What happens is that Osama's most trusted courier, whose name was Ibrahim, had to go to Peshawar city for some work. And throughout the entire Peshawar city, the signals were on the CIA's radar. Now, generally, Ibrahim used a secure method to communicate in areas like Peshawar. But that day, out of laziness, he stood in a public area in Peshawar and used his personal phone to talk to an Al-Qaeda member for a few seconds. Now, this phone call that Ibrahim made, because of this, the CIA immediately tracks Ibrahim's live location and reaches the place from where Ibrahim made the call. And after reaching there, they do not catch Ibrahim but try to follow him to find out more of his locations. After this, Ibrahim uses his white Suzuki, Ports and Jeep with a Rhino drawn on a spare tyre at the back. Sitting in it, he starts moving. And here, CIA agents start following him. For quite a while, CIA follows Ibrahim's car, and then after some time, Ibrahim with his car, he takes a turn towards Bilal town in Abbottabad, and after going a short distance, there was a very large compound into which Ibrahim drives his Jeep. Now the CIA team was standing outside. They stop and start discussing what to do next. Mainly, these people were thinking that instead of going directly inside, they should track this compound for a few days to see where Ibrahim goes from here, and maybe with his help, they could reach Osama. Now while the CIA people were discussing among themselves, their attention was drawn to the compound Ibrahim had entered. And when they looked at that compound carefully, the compound, which was, found a bit strange, this entire compound was built on approximately 38,000 square feet. But in such a large compound, there was only one main entry. And the walls had 18-foot high boundaries all around, and barbed wire was placed on top of those boundaries. And they were even more surprised to see the upper floor. There were no windows, and the balcony had a boundary of 7 feet, kept. Generally, if you look at a balcony, such high boundaries are not installed. So, seeing all these things, they doubt that so much arrangement would not have been made for Ibrahim. Surely there might be some high-value targets in this that could lead to Osama. Because of this, they were sure that Osama would not be in this compound, since the Pakistani Military Academy was just a short distance away. Osama would not take such a big risk as to build a house and live near the Pakistan Military Academy. They thought he might be somewhere in a cave or in the mountains. The next day, then, they reach near this compound again. They start observing the activities happening inside the compound. And when they find out more details about this compound, they become even more surprised. They found out that for the past 5 years, the people living inside this compound are those from the nearby houses, the people. They did not mean anything to anyone. And at that time, there were wired phone lines inside houses, but there was no phone line inside this compound. They were not using the internet technology or anything like that. This was a complete military area. Even after that here, there was no surveillance camera or anything like that installed in this area. And when they tried to indirectly gather some information from the nearby people and children, they were told that they are very wealthy. Once while playing cricket, the children's ball went into the compound.
So they didn't return the ball, but instead gave them 10 times the money of what the ball was worth. Now the CIA agents, with all these details, sent an email to their director at that time, Leon Panetta. The title of that email was Closing in on Osama Bin Laden Courier. Mainly, in this entire email, they wrote that this compound is not normal. We feel that it could also be possible that Osama is inside. Now, when this email is received, Leon Panetta, after making a presentation, they directly go to President Barack Obama, saying that a compound has been found inside Pakistan. The team feels that Osama might be inside, and for this, we have to start an investigation of the entire compound without informing Pakistan. So, Obama says that even though this compound is inside Pakistan, start your work without informing Pakistan. As soon as the go-ahead is received from the White House, it was the beginning of September 2010. They start finding out about this compound, and all these people together had made a common document called Anatomy of Lead. It contained all the details related to this compound they could find. In this, they would add, no matter how small it was. Now, when they were tracking this compound, then, in the meantime, they find out that the women living in this compound occasionally use a phone to talk, and during these calls, they lie that they are in Kuwait, while they are actually inside the same compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. For many days, they gather this basic information by observing the compound from a distance, and in November 2010, the CIA team that was seated in the US went to Obama, saying there are very strong chances that Osama is in this compound. We definitely should take some action on this compound. There are very high chances that Osama will be found inside. Now, after listening to all the details, Obama asks, how strong is this strong feeling you are talking about? Tell him percentage. So John said at that time, 90%. His team said 80%, and the CIA's deputy director, Michael Morrell, said 60%. And then after that, Obama said that this compound is inside Pakistan. If we have to take any action, we need to explore a few more possibilities. It could also be that instead of Osama, some sheikh from the Gulf has run away there, or it could be someone else. And if by mistake we take action, and it turns out to be someone other than Osama, we cannot afford that. There will be a significant damage to reputation, and relations with Pakistan will deteriorate. Now from here, the team of CIA analysts realized that more details will have to be gathered if any action is to be taken on this compound. They started to think that Osama is inside, but they needed proof, and for that, they decided that some observation posts near the Abbottabad compound would need to be set up, and some trustworthy local person must also be included. Otherwise, the details of this compound would not be accurate. So, the CIA team had a contact who was a retired Pakistani army officer, Lieutenant Colonel Saeed Iqbal. The CIA team had very good past relations with him. They informed Lieutenant Colonel Saeed Iqbal, told about the entire compound, and said they needed his help secretly. Now this Lieutenant Colonel Saeed Iqbal had a friend, Dr. Amir Aziz, whose house was only 80 yards away from the compound, and from his roof, several locations inside the compound were visible. So the CIA team asked this retired Lieutenant Colonel Saeed Iqbal it was decided to send him to Amir's house. Then Saeed Iqbal reaches Amir's house and chats for a while about various topics. Then he says, I want to meet your dog. Actually, the dogs inside Amir's house were on the roof, and using the excuse of meeting the dogs, he invites him to his house. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Saeed Iqbal reaches the roof, and from there takes multiple photos of the compound, then delivers those photos to the CIA. Whatever details related to this compound were being obtained, it was being connected, and the task belonged to a separate CIA team led by Gina Bennett. The task of this team was to create the actual layout of the entire compound, collecting all the small details available. And within the same week, they rented an office 1 mile away from this compound and turned this office into a CIA camp. All the meetings took place in this office, which acted as the CIA camp. In this entire area, where the compound was located, when the CIA analysts would go there. So that there is not much noise, they used Lexus coach cars at that time, and they would sit in them and go to inspect the entire area. The whole team of CIA analysts never lost sight of this entire compound for even a second. To track this compound, they installed infrared cameras and night vision cameras so that human heat to collect thermal images and track all movements at night using night vision cameras, and they would prepare a report. They knew everything about these people, what time they eat, what time they sleep, and what time they come for a walk. All the popular trees around the compound even had listening devices installed, so that by mistake, any conversation, so that it can be heard. Now after this, December 2010 had started, and with all the details they had gathered so far, they had come to know this much about what was inside the compound. Approximately 20 to 22 people live inside, in which they felt that Osama was there, along with Osama's 3 wives and children. Iqbal and Abrar's family was living inside, and they also learned that every day a man from inside the compound sends handwritten notes, which Ibrahim, acting as a courier, delivers further. And this way, all the fighters within Al-Qaeda received messages, and future planning was decided. The CIA team was very noisy. That Osama could only send such messages while sitting inside the compound. But they had no proof. The CIA team was tirelessly trying day and night to find that one proof which could be sent to the USA, so that an action plan could be made for this compound, and Osama could be captured. Now, as the last week of December approached, the CIA team that was monitoring, they noticed an activity on a daily basis. On the topmost floor inside this compound, a tall man was sitting, comes to the balcony, and walks briskly for a while, and then goes inside. Arrangements were made with shades in the balcony, so that the tall man's face was not visible. Only his shadow was visible on the wall, and Osama's height was also 6 feet 4 inches. So, based only on that shadow, the CIA team, they calculated the ratio of the wall and the shadow and made a report. But even in that report, the exact height could not be determined. A range was given. The report stated that the person walking had a height ranging from 5 feet 5 inches to... It could be up to 6 foot 8 inches, so this range becomes very long, and they couldn't come to any conclusion from this either. However, the entire CIA team reached the conclusion that the tall man, who comes to this compound daily and strolls on the balcony, cannot work for anyone. He is the head of this entire compound, because he was the only person among those 20 to 25 people working around who never helped them. So, the CIA team realized that he is the main person and could also be Osama, who is living on the top floor. After this, the CIA team decides among themselves that if they can access the compound's sewage by digging underground, they can get DNA from the human waste, and this will provide certainty about whether Osama is inside the compound or not. And these were 56 Bivan, so the CIA team already had the DNA of Osama's family, and they extended this plan to reach the sewage for many days. And then finally, they reached this conclusion that so much digging underground and mouths... If there is movement, then the people living inside the compound will become suspicious, and there is a fear that the only opportunity to capture Osama in 10 years will slip away. So they drop this plan. But after this, the CIA team chooses a new approach. What happens is that there was a local doctor in Pakistan whose name was Shakil Afridi. Now this doctor had a secret CIA operative, a woman named Kate, who goes to him and says that she runs an NGO called Save the Child, in which all the poor children are helped. And then she presents a proposal to Dr. Afridi that Abbottabad is where, due to a lack of money, the hepatitis B vaccine is not being administered to the children. And their NGO helps the poor children in this area. Wants to run a campaign for hepatitis B vaccination. Actually, the CIA's plan was to use the pretext of giving vaccines to get inside the compound, collect DNA from the children under that pretext, and find out whether Osama is inside or not. Initially, Dr. Afridi doesn't show much interest, but this CIA secret operative, Kate, this colleague, Sue, introduces Dr. Afridi. And what does Sue do? She transfers $55,000 into Dr. Afridi's personal account. Now, after receiving the money, Afridi starts the vaccination work without using his mind. Afridi had no idea that he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Afridi, without thinking, there was an Ayub medical college nearby. Nurses and healthcare workers were recruited from there, and a vaccination drive was started from Nawashur to Bilar town. Posters were put up everywhere saying that children in this area would be given a very high-quality Amson vaccine. Now the vaccine drive starts, and Dr. Afridi with his team arrives near the compound that the CIA had been waiting for so long. As soon as they ring the bell and such, Ibrahim comes out and chases them away. Sue and Kate try several times by phone, finding numbers from here and there, but even that doesn't work out. And this was the CIA's plan. That also failed. Now, Dr. Afridi, in pursuit of money, had conducted the drive, but he did not know what the USA was making him do behind it. And because of this one mistake, Dr. Afridi was sentenced to 33 years. Even today, he is in prison on charges of treason against Pakistan. Now, after this plan failed, the CIA began exploring other things to get more details. On the other hand, inside the compound, a different story was unfolding. Inside the compound, Ibrahim and Abrar had grown tired of hiding for many years, and carrying out daily activities. Their health had deteriorated greatly. Ibrahim had developed cancer and had become extremely weak. Abrar was on medication for depression. And just a few days after this vaccine incident, Ibrahim and Abrar went to Osama and told him that they were tired of constantly running and could no longer stay in that compound. Osama understood their situation and said that on the 11th of September, 2011, the attack we carried out on the USA, its 10th anniversary is coming up. So let's stay until that date, and afterward, you people can buy a retirement house in Jeddah, and I will also leave from here, and we will sell this compound. So the point is that there were only a few months left for Osama to leave this compound. And if the CIA delays further, so Osama might not be caught by them again for many years. And the CIA also realized that if they waited much longer, Osama would leave from here. By this particular time, another thing that had happened was that using all the details obtained and the satellite images and other technologies, CIA analyst Gina Bennett.
They had prepared the layout of the entire compound, detailing where everything was, where the stairs were, how many steps there were, where the car was parked, and the height of the walls from every angle. All these details were mentioned in this document, and they named this document Sensitive Site Exploitation, abbreviated as SSE. The people living inside the compound also had to be subjected to sensitive site exploitation, as per this document.
They had created a card for every member: Osama, Ibrahim, Abrar. This is its original copy. You can see who is living on which floor. Their height is mentioned. Each detail is mentioned, and after this document's completion, Gina, crying, was 100% sure that Osama was inside this compound, and the rest of the team also wanted action to be taken inside this compound. Otherwise, those who have been after Osama for 10 years, again that stuff will slip from their hands. Now the next day, CIA's top analyst Leon Panetta, Admiral McRaven, Mike Mullen, James Cartwright, and Pentagon's counter-terrorism advisor, Michael Vickers, arrive at the White House Situation Room and hold a meeting with Obama. Even before this meeting, they took help from the National Geospatial Intelligence agencies. They had created a model of the entire compound, in which each thing was mentioned floor by floor, as it was actually in the compound. And in this meeting, all these people together confirm that action must now be taken, and Obama also agrees to this. This entire team presents the first option to Obama, that we will enter Pakistan's airspace by air and over this entire compound. We will strike with a B-2 bomber. Given the size of the compound, a total of 24 bombs will be used, and there will be no risk to the life of any US commandos. However, they also pointed out issues with this option, such as massive destruction in the entire area, which could result in civilian casualties. A small earthquake could also occur in the vicinity, and there is also a possibility that it may never be known whether Osama was even there or not, because the DNA evidence, there are chances of that being erased too. And the biggest problem with this was that the reputation around the world would worsen, relations with Pakistan would deteriorate, and it would be very difficult to defend a strike on another country. Moreover, if any civilian were to die by mistake, the problems would increase even further. The second option they suggested was to carry out a precise drone attack. It can happen. But they also mentioned a problem with this. This is an option where the chances of Osama escaping from there are very high, and the US did not want to miss any opportunity this time. They had been waiting for this for 10 years. There was also a discussion that a bilateral operation could be done with Pakistan. But Obama had clearly refused that under any situation, Pakistan should not find out what we are going to do. And then after all this discussion, Admiral McRaven said that the best option would be that our special team, without informing Pakistan, go inside this compound and personally identify and kill Osama directly. And no one nearby will know anything. The special forces will quietly go, do their job, and come back. And the good thing about this option was that if Osama was not found in the compound, it would be very easy to suppress this fact. The only negative in this option was that all the officers who would go, their lives would be at great risk. After listening to all these details, Obama thought for a while, and then the world's most risky operation, which Navy SEAL officers will go into the compound in Pakistan without informing them and will kill Osama themselves. They give the go-ahead for this operation, and it is named Operation Neptune Spear. The name Neptune Spear was chosen because the Navy SEAL team was to go for this operation, and Neptune signifies their maritime heritage, and spear means a javelin, symbolizing a precise and effective attack. So it was decided that action was to be taken in this compound, but not much time could be spent in preparation because that Osama could also escape, and Admiral McRaven had given assurance to Obama that somehow they will complete all the preparations in 3 weeks, and as soon as the meeting ends, From the next day itself, everyone starts with the preparations. The best officers from the USA were needed, and after multiple discussions from the Navy, the Red Squadron of SEAL Team 6, they were selected to carry out the operation. The most important part of this entire operation was to fly the helicopter at a very low height, handling and transporting while avoiding Pakistan's radar. For this, pilots from the 160 Special Operations Aviation Regiment of the US Army were selected.
They are considered the best for situations like this. So, in this way, a total of 24 officers were selected, who were the best for this situation and had a very good previous record. And all these people who were selected, none of them
was not informed about the operation being selected to kill Osama. They were just told to prepare for an operation in the Afghanistan and Pakistan area. And after all these things happened, on the 10th of April 2011, all these officers who were selected were taken to a secret location in the forests of North Carolina. And when all the officers arrived there, before them, the Abbottabad compound had a model placed, and not far from there, an exact same size compound was prepared, so that all these people could prepare. And after this, inside the same compound, which was an exact replica of the original compound, the entire team started practicing. And during practice, they and their team, they also added a Belgian breed dog named Cairo, and they took this dog with them daily.
They practiced jumping from the helicopter. And within this group, a Pashto translator was also included, so that during the operation, when they would be getting people out of the compound and capturing them, they could communicate with them and extract details. And then for the next 5 days, they continued to practice floor by floor on the same model, and regularly fly the plane at low heights. And then, 5 days later, on the 18th of April 2011, the entire team was taken to a secret location in Nevada, US. Practice was conducted on the same model, because the temperature and elevation of Nevada and Afghanistan were almost the same. So, on one hand, these people were training, and on the other hand, more teams were being formed, and they were also being prepared for different situations. For instance, if Osama surrendered, according to the rules, they could not kill him, and he would have to be arrested. So a team was formed which included lawyers, interpreters, and others, so that after arresting, Osama could be brought to that team. And this interrogation team was being prepared and was practicing on the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea, ready for the case if Osama surrendered.
Then he will be brought to this aircraft, and this specific team will interrogate him. After this, another team was formed, which was headed by Rhodus and George Little. The job of this team was to decide what to say to the media after this whole operation. They were preparing for different scenarios, like what to say to the media if Osama is killed, if he surrenders, or if Navy SEALs are captured or the operation fails. What briefing to give to the media in that case. What this team should say to the media for every situation. The way to speak, everything was prepared. Along with this, Mark Kelton and Ambassador Cameron also prepared and submitted their 2 plans. This plan included how to escape if the Navy SEAL operation gets stuck somewhere. They prepared 2 plans. One exit route was made towards the Indian border, and they made another exit plan towards Karachi, where they included the USS Carl Vinson. Kip had already been stationed there. So after readying all these things, the overall plan they made was that this entire team would first take training in the USA. The team will go to the US Air Base in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, and wait for orders there. At the Jalalabad Air Base, a total of 5 helicopters, including 2 US-60 Black Hawk stealth helicopters and 3 Boeing CH-47 Chinook helicopters, will be waiting for them. And when given the go-ahead, they will use these helicopters to enter Pakistan's airspace.
By flying at low height, avoiding Pakistan's radar, they will reach the location. These helicopters were special. They were also customized. Their heat signatures were very low. The sound was very minimal. They were very difficult to detect. They had decided that in the Jalalabad airspace where
there will be 5 helicopters here. One of the CH-47 Chinook helicopters will wait at the airbase so it can serve as a fuel backup if needed. The other 2 CH-47 Chinook helicopters, they will stop in the area of Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Kala Daka, Swat Hills, which were 50 miles away from the Osama compound. This was also kept as a backup, which included a quick reaction team of 24 officers, so that if heavy retaliation came from the compound, these people could also reach near the compound. And the other 2 US-60 Black Hawk stealth helicopters, their main job was to go to the Osama compound and complete the operation. Along with this, The RQ-170 Sentinel stealth drone was to stay over the entire compound and monitor everything. So this was the plan they had set. And as per the plan, on the 26th of April 2011, it was completed. The entire team first reaches Bagram airfield in Afghanistan, rests there for a day, and on the next day, that is, the 27th of April, after reaching the Jalalabad Air Base in Afghanistan, the whole team starts waiting for orders to complete the operation. Now, on the next day, that is April 28th, 2011, Obama holds a meeting, and at 8:20 in the morning, he signs the final approval for this entire operation. And as soon as the signing happens, the date of the 30th of April, 2011, is fixed for this operation. But as soon as the date is fixed, the weather report starts to indicate bad conditions. The day starts showing more fog. Because of this, they change the date and fix the historic date as the 1st of May, 2011. Now after this, only one day was left to capture Osama. And then after all the preparations, finally, on the evening of the 1st of May, 2011,
that historic day in May 2011 arrives. The day the world's most risky operation is going to take place.
The time zones of the US and Afghanistan were different, so there was a time difference. In the US, it was 1:22 in the afternoon Eastern Time, and it was about to be 11 at night in Afghanistan. And at this specific time, Panetta and McRaven started the operation. According to the USA time, around 2 o'clock, at this time Obama was playing golf. They come and sit in the White House Situation Room and start taking updates on everything. Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, it was 11:30 at night, and after eating dinner at night, Osama, with his wife and children, He goes to sleep on the upper floor. Osama had no idea what was going to happen to him in the next few hours. Now after this, at the airbase in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, where the team had been waiting for so long, as per the plan, one of the 5 helicopters, the CH-47 Chinook helicopter, he stays there as a backup. The remaining 4 helicopters, 2 Chinooks and 2 Black Hawks, start flying towards Pakistan's Swat Valley, avoiding the radar, and within 15 minutes, they enter Pakistan's airspace. As soon as they enter, they begin flying at a very low altitude, and Pakistan's radar is unable to detect them. After this, these 4 helicopters, around 12 o'clock, they reach Swat Valley, and here 2 out of the 4 Chinooks, which had the quick reaction team, stop and wait in the hills of Kala Daka Swat in Pakistan as a backup. Commander Admiral William McRaven was seated in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, providing updates to the White House Situation Room on every single detail. Officers and drones had cameras installed in them. Because of the camera, Obama and his team inside the Situation Room were watching live. This is the famous image. You will notice Obama sitting here in golf clothes. After this, at night, 2 Black Hawks leave from Swat Valley to conduct the operation in Osama's compound, and within 30 minutes, meaning by 12:30, these 2 helicopters reach Osama's compound. What you are seeing is the layout of the entire compound. This is the main gate.
Here, they used to burn garbage, etc. Here, on this side, they'd grown vegetables. Before entering the main compound from here, there's a room.
Ibrahim and his family were sleeping here, and over here in the main compound, Abrar and his family were sleeping on the ground floor. On the first floor was Osama's son Khalid, and on the upper floor, Osama was sleeping with his wife and children. Now, the first Black Hawk helicopter had 12 Navy SEAL commanders. This team's name was Chalk 1, and the second Black Hawk helicopter also had 12 Navy SEALs. They had a dog and a translator with them. Their team's name was Chalk 2, and then the helicopter named Chalk 2 remained in the air, and a Navy SEAL officer descended with the dog, and upon landing, went to guard the main gate of the compound on this side, so that if anyone comes from outside or tries to escape, they can be handled. After this, 3 more Navy SEAL officers land on the road and start waiting there. And then the remaining Navy SEAL officers also descend and jump from the side wall of the road. They move towards the main compound belonging to Osama, and upon reaching, they turn off all the lights of the compound so that the people inside have difficulty moving and cannot see anything. The rest, inside this operation. The other Navy SEAL officers on the way were wearing night vision glasses so they could see clearly. Now, after this, the second helicopter starts descending from this side, but it gets caught in its own created downward airflow, which caused an aerodynamic phenomenon called settling with power. And the helicopter had completely lost control. It had become unstable, The compound they had built during training had a wall of short height and chain link fencing,
while the original compound had a greater height and was made of concrete. So the helicopter's blades hit it, and the helicopter becomes unstable. But still, the pilot used his mind.
This caused our helicopter to land on its nose. This allowed the other Navy SEAL officers to safely exit. However, the helicopter's tail hit the wall and broke.
This is its original image. Now, the original plan was that these 24 Navy SEAL officers would be dropped by these two helicopters.
After that, a little distance away where there was a secret and deserted area, both helicopters will wait. And when this operation is complete, both helicopters will return to the compound.
The Navy SEALs officers will be taken and quietly leave from here without anyone knowing what happened. But as soon as the helicopter crashed, the plan had to be changed, and the other helicopter stayed there, because due to the helicopter crash, the entire operation could no longer be hidden. Because the next day, when people saw the USA's crashed helicopter, they would understand what happened here. The point is that due to this crash, the mission was no longer a secret. Now the world had to find out that the US conducted an operation here, and that's why the second helicopter stops there, and the drone monitors over the entire compound from above, and the snipers also take their positions around this compound. They were watching them from all sides. After this, the lights of the entire Abbottabad go out. This was also part of the CIA's plan, so that there would be less visibility, and people wouldn't know much. But a man named Shoaib Athar, who was working on a computer, tweeted at that time from his Twitter handle, "Really virtual. Helicopter hovering over Abbottabad region at 1 a.m. is a rare event." After this, the team enters from this side and uses C4 explosive to break the gate. Then they go this side. This had Ibrahim and his family, and they did this. The room was locked from the inside, and when SEAL team member Matthew approached the room, Ibrahim fired from inside the closed room. The Navy SEALs also fired from their side, and Ibrahim was killed. Then, when Ibrahim was dead, his wife opened the door and came out because she was afraid the children might get shot. The children were hidden behind sacks. Matthew, along with his team, causes these people to surrender right there and stops the children as well. Then he moves towards the main compound with his team and uses C4 explosives to break the other gate. Now, as they move towards the main compound, O'Neill's team was already advancing towards the main compound with the translator. At this time, the helicopter was circling the entire compound, and Osama's problem was that there was no window on the upper floor, so despite wanting to, he couldn't figure out what was happening below. After this, the Navy SEALs reached the ground floor. Here, Abrar, his wife, and 3 children are present, and from here, the translator calls out to Abrar in his language, and as soon as Abrar appears, they shoot Abrar. His wife also got shot, and all the children and any females in the compound were being gathered together in one place. After this, the Navy SEAL team reached the first floor, where Osama's son Khalid was. Osama's son fired with an AK-47, but the Navy SEAL also eliminated him, and the entire team was still searching for Osama. After this, O'Neill goes with his entire team to the upper floor. Now, when O'Neill's team reaches the upper floor, they see a tall man in night vision who turns out to be Osama. Osama's wife Amal stands in front of him to protect him, and shortly after, Osama pushes his wife towards the SEAL team. Initially, the SEAL team runs back because they suspect that Amal might attempt to attack them. The jacket is not being worn. But this doesn't happen, and then when they check, O'Neill shoots Amal in the knee with his team, and then at 1:10, 2 bullets are shot at Osama's forehead above the left eye. Now from here, Osama was dead, but the SEAL team still wasn't sure if the man who was killed was indeed Osama. Navy SEAL officer Bissonnette picked up a sheet from the bed and also cleaned Osama's face. Photos were taken and sent forward. This went on for 15 minutes as they continued to confirm whether the man killed was Osama. They also tried to measure Osama's height, but the measuring tape was launched. Forgot to come. After this, the translator asked Osama's daughters, Sumaya and Mariam, who this man was. Mariam lies. She says this is Abdullah bin Muhammad, but Sumaya tells the truth that her father is Osama, and to double confirm, the third daughter, who was 11 years old, Saifia, is also asked. She also says it is Osama, and then Osama's second wife, Khairia, the one who was there, she is asked, and she also says that this man who was killed is indeed Osama, and then the Navy SEAL team. They call with the satellite phone and say Geronimo EKIA. The CIA team had given Osama the nickname Geronimo, and EKIA means enemy killed in action. The same thing is also conveyed to the White House. And after this?
After 470, the CH-47 Chinook helicopter, which was a backup, also arrives near the compound. Immediately after this, they gather all the women and children from the compound in the vegetable area. All the hard drives, cell phones, papers, cameras, and DVDs from Osama's room are collected and placed in one location.
They gather all of this, and the plane that crashed, the SEAL team,
Blows it up. Only the part with the fuel remains. When she is blowing up this plane, there is a very loud sound, and Shoaib Attar, who had tweeted earlier, also tweeted about this explosion, right after hearing the sound. And then at 2:26,
both helicopters took separate routes out of Pakistan to avoid being tracked, and the samples of Osama's body were distributed between the two helicopters so that in case of an attack on them,
if it crashes, then at least one sample remains. To complete this entire operation, it takes 40 minutes. After this, they reach Afghanistan with Osama's body, inside Jalalabad. There, it is sent for a DNA test to match with a family member of Osama's DNA, and they check the body by removing Osama's clothes, finding €500 in his clothes. And when it is actually confirmed that it is Osama, at 11:35, Obama informs the whole world that they have killed Osama.
They conducted the operation inside Pakistan and killed Osama. This speech that was given was also already prepared. After that, they put Osama's body in a V-22 aircraft and dispose of it in the Arabian Sea with Muslim rituals.
On the other hand, in Pakistan, it was 3:45 in the morning, and everything had become known within Pakistan. The army and others reached the location of the compound. Osama's wife and the other children were taken out and driven to the hospital in a curtained bus, and when the interrogation happened, then, the whole scenario was explained by his children and his wife, detailing what happened that night and how they had been staying there for 5 years. When the file from Osama's room was made public by the CIA, it revealed that Osama had ordered and watched documentaries related to himself, which were disclosed. It also included adult content that Osama used to watch.
There were children's games, journals about what Al-Qaeda should do next and how. All that was there too. In this way, Osama was caught, and when the operation ended, the SEAL team received a lot of appreciation.
But the SEAL team successfully completed this entire operation, yet they forgot to take the measuring tape. So, Obama joked and gave them a measuring tape as gift to them